At my company, FundWithCredit.com, we have secured over 20 million 0% business credit, and I have personally secured around 500 to 600,000 myself just to scale my own businesses. And I get asked a lot, why should I use 0% business credit to grow my company when I could just do it for free, or I could use cash? So I kind of want to go over why I always have used business credit to scale my companies and why I recommend everyone does, because you have a lot of characters nowadays like Dave Ramsey and the no debt influencers who are pretty much sharing, that they recommend no credit cards, no mortgages, no auto loans. And I'm not saying that everyone should just go into a stupid amount of debt that they can't handle. But when it comes to actually growing and scaling a business, I think business credit is the best thing, especially 0% business credit. It's the best thing that you could possibly do. So, this is going to be a very jumbled video. I try to keep YouTube as real and authentic as I can. I don't want it to be 1,000 jump cuts. I don't want 1,000 things flying across the screen. I call that crack content personally. Main reason I don't do that is, well, number one, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to edit, and I don't want to figure out how to do it. And two, I want it to just feel like a normal face-to-face conversation, just to make it as real and authentic as I can. So if I ever really mess up my points or I say a lot, well, that is why, because I just simply don't feel like editing the content, and I just want to keep it real, like you're just talking to a friend. So why should I use 0% business credit? Well, I mean, why you want to use it or why someone else should use it, that's entirely up to them. I can really only come at it from my perspective for why I've always used it and my belief around it. And the reason I've always used it is you simply can grow so much faster. I always like to use the ad spend example. So let's say that you are getting ready to start running ads in your business. Well, if you have, let's say, $5,000 in cash in your business bank account, could you use that to get the ads up and running? Absolutely. People have definitely used ad spend smaller than that and made it work. The problem is you do not have a lot of money to test. And if that's all of the cash that you have in your business bank account, you really don't have a lot of room for error, because you probably need that for other business expenses, and you might be paying yourself from that money to feed your family. So it could be a huge risk if you were to take that $5,000 and just put it towards your marketing. Now, the reason I like using 0% business credit, or having the secondary option in this case, is if you have, let's say you go out and you secure $100,000 in 0% business credit, you now have so much money for marketing, and you are in a position where you can honestly let your ads fail. You could spend, in this case, if you had $100,000 in 0% business credit, you could spend $20,000 in your ads. They could completely flop and you would be fine. And the reason for that is when you are using 0% business credit, the way the debt structure and the way you pay that back is it's a 1% minimum monthly payment. So if you have $20,000 being utilized on a 0% business credit card, that means your monthly payment on that, because there's no interest, is $200. So you could spend 4 times. So if you have $5,000 in cash, you could spend 4 times that amount on marketing on a business credit card, and your monthly payment is $200. Just about anyone can afford a $200 a month payment, especially if it's an investment towards growing your business. Because if you were to put $20,000 towards something, like if you were to put $20,000 towards your ads, there's a very low likelihood that you don't figure out what's working and your ads start making money. Now with $5,000, that's not much money. So what I'm trying to get at is it just allows you to go through the testing and failure phase to finally get through that to figure out what's working. On top of just it being fuel for the ads, and this is what I've used, this is one of my favorite perks of 0% business credit, is you get credit card points. Now, for instance, in this same example, let's say that you were using that 0% business credit on ads or on your marketing. Well, there are 2 cards specifically, the Chase Ink Preferred, Ink Business Preferred, and then the Amex Business Gold. The Amex Business Gold gets 4 points per dollar spent on ads, and then the Chase Ink Business Preferred gets 3 points per dollar spent on ads. So you're literally doing this activity to grow your business, so running ads, and at the same exact time, you are just stockpiling travel points. To date, I've taken over $60,000 worth of free vacations just by using credit card points. I use the credit cards to scale my business, and then I use the points to take free vacations. I literally take probably 2 to 3 vacations every single year, entirely paid for by points. Now, obviously, not entirely. Like, I'm not paying for my food with the points. I'm paying for the rental car, the hotel, or the resort, the flights a lot of times. So I'm recovering the main expenses of a vacation. So there's very, very few opportunities in life where you get to stack perks like that. You're using this debt, which is very cheap to use. Once again, if you have $30,000 on a 0% business credit card, that's a $300 a month monthly payment. That's not much at all for that much money you can use. And then you're just getting all these travel points. Also, it just allows you to have money put away that if you needed to access it, you could. Now, the reason this one really hits home for me is I owned a watch company years ago, and whenever that watch company went belly up, I had a bunch of debt to cover. And at that time, I was doing DoorDash and Grubhub, delivering food to be able to pay my personal expenses and the business expenses, but it got to be too much. I could not cover the business expenses, and I ended up getting on Google one day and looking up how to file for bankruptcy. And around that same time is when I came across using 0% business credit and like how you could acquire it with no docs, no revenue. And then I was able to get my hands on enough to be able to refinance all my debt from the watch company. And then I had enough on the side to help continuously grow my business. But where I'm getting at is in business, you will have months where your business doesn't make money, or you try something and it fails and you need some cash to bridge the gap. If you don't have access to debt and you're just doing everything based on cash, well, if you don't have any cash and your business hits a rough month, you may go under. You may have to file for bankruptcy. It may be I'm not going to say the end, but like it could result in something super bad. Whereas if you just had access to capital, you would be in a position where you could maybe float yourself for 2-3 months while you get revenue stable again. Or in the event of someone just being a beginner, a lot of times a beginner is not coming into business with a load of capital to be able to, like most, a lot of people want to believe there's a ton of trust fund kids out there, but there are not a ton of trust fund kids. There's very, very few of them actually. Most people are starting from ground zero if they're going to build a business. So they don't, in that instance, yeah, you can do a bunch of free methods to be able to get the business rolling, which I recommend people do that because you need to figure out the principles of business. But you are going to grow so much faster if you have access to money, access to capital. Because let's say that you are, I use online businesses as an example a lot. Or actually, I'm going to use a lawn care company. I'm going to take it a different direction to kind of send the example home. So let's say that you're starting a lawn care company. Like, could you just get your mower, walk around, knock doors, get a few yards, and then as you get more capital, you could put it into more mowers, you could get a new truck? Like, absolutely. But how much faster would you grow if you could put a little bit of money towards marketing to put your name on Facebook in front of all of the people who own yards in that area, having them send their information, and you get a bunch of new quotes? Like, you could probably secure yards 5 times as fast. Like, you could be doing the knocking on the doors, but you could also be running the ads. So you'd probably get 5 times as many yards. And let's say that maybe if you were starting out from scratch, you only had the money to afford a push mower. But if you had access to some capital, you could get yourself a riding mower, maybe even a cheap truck to be able to pull all your equipment. Now you can take on a larger scale yard. You can do a better job. You can go to a more expensive neighborhood where they're paying more for you to do their lawn because you have the right equipment to make their lawn look good. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. I'm not going to just sit here and make the point over and over and over again. But my main thing I'm trying to get at here is it's hard to, like, if you are a beginner with capital and you're going against someone who is super, super advanced and they don't have capital, well, yes, they have more experience in business, and there is a good, most likely in that scenario, that person, the more advanced person, is going to grow their business faster, yes. But if you have 2 people who are starting out in the same spot, one person has 1 to 5K to their name to put into their business, but you have another guy who has 100 plus K of capital put into his business, it's in that scenario, it's almost always going to be the person with capital who wins, because you can just pay your way through the scars. You can work your way through the failures, and you can also afford to get help. So let's say that you started a consulting company and there's someone, or you want to get into house flipping, and there is a mentor out there who is an expert house flipper. They flipped over 500 houses. Well, you could pay the expert to help you get started, help you locate the best deals. You could use some of that extra capital to secure your first deal. And now you have the help, you got the expertise, you have your first house, you flip it, boom. Now you have capital. You can pay your cards back, and then you can just rinse and repeat the process. But if someone was in a position and they did not have access to that capital, you never would have been able to execute on that plan like that. You would never be able to pay the mentor, because a lot of times a really good mentor is expensive, and you'd never have been able to afford your first property because you don't have access to that capital. You would have likely had to have just tried to go at it on your own, secure a high interest loan through hard money or private money, and that makes your first property a super risky situation. So I'm going to stop here. You get the point. If you have access to 0% business credit, you just put yourself in a way better position to make money a lot faster if you're a business owner. I will never not use 0% business credit. That's why I have secured over $500,000 just for me personally. And that's why, after I got past the whole bankruptcy stage, I was able to refinance that debt. That's what inspired me to help other businesses do it at FundWithCredit.com. And to date, we've done over $20.7 million in 0% business credit. But that's all I got for you. JP out.